press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Hi students, in the previous video we have discussed about the magnetism, magnetic substances, magnets, magnetic pole strength, magnetic dipole and dipole moment, and also the expression for magnetic dipole moment of the electron moving around an atom called Bohr magneton. But we are now in this class going to see about some important terms related to the magnetism, starting with what is meant by magnetic field. So there is a large similarity between the electrostatics and magnetostatics. So in electrostatic we defined what is electric field mean. Just recall, you will come to know almost all the terms what we are learning in magnetostatics can be understood by the knowledge or from the knowledge of the electrostatic. Only the changes I told you that there we discuss about electric energy, here we discussing about the magnetic energy. So electrostatics, electric field is defined as the region or the space in which a unit positive charge experience a force. Similarly, you can think a region, if I placed a free north pole experience a force both in magnitude and direction. If a free north pole experience a force in certain region or space, then entire region or space we call possessing magnetic field. Or you can think any magnet surrounding this there is a magnetic field, its influence. Another magnet if I brought here or a free north pole brought can experience a force. Either way we can define. One, that it is the region or the space in which a free north pole experience a force, or the region surrounding a magnet in which another free north pole brought can experience a force. Either way we can define it as a magnetic field. So however, these magnetic fields we have classified into two categories. One is called uniform magnetic field. Uniform magnetic field. There just we considered Earth as a magnet. On the surface of the Earth, magnetic field of the Earth on the surface, field of the Earth is almost considered as uniform, or otherwise magnetic field along the axis inside a solenoid is almost seems to be uniform. Well, within the solenoid along the axis magnetic field is uniform, or on the surface of the Earth magnetic field, Earth magnetism is found to be almost uniform. If you want non-uniform magnetic field, the meaning is the field at a different point or the free north pole placed at different points shows different force both either in magnitude or in direction or in both. Then we call it as a non-uniform magnetic field. Wherever you may place in that region, the north pole experiencing the same force both in magnitude and direction, then we call it as a uniform magnetic field, that is can be observed in those two cases. Similarly, non-uniform magnetic field of the bar magnet or current carrying circular coil. In which we see that magnetic field is found to be different at different points. So So if I show graphical representation of the uniform magnetic field parallel to the paper or parallel to the board, if I represent this magnetic field uniform, how it represents the uniformly spread. The field lines are uniformly spread in the entire region of the magnetic field, perpendicular to the paper. Perpendicular to the paper, and the field lines are coming out perpendicular to the paper outwards. Then we represent with the dot. This represents the magnetic field is uniformly spread, and the field lines are the magnetic field is emanating out of the paper, normal to the paper. Suppose if it is inward, perpendicular to the paper and inward, into the paper or into the board, so we represent with a cross. This is how we represent graphically the magnetic fields. As you enter the chapter, many times or even in entrance paper, they show sometimes the magnetic field notation. Direction can be understood. If the field is acting out of the board paper, then it is representing with a dot. If it is into the paper, they are representing with a cross. Parallel to the paper, either rightward or leftward with the arrow mark. So that another is non-uniform magnetic field. If you want to represent a non-uniform magnetic field, so they are not uniform as like. In some regions it may be more and in some regions may be less. And we are maybe seeing like this, the magnetic field lines. In different regions it is having different magnitude, or there may be change in the direction also. Wherever you can see, in case of uniform magnetic field, you place a north pole and test, it will experience the same force both in magnitude and direction. Then we call it as a uniform magnetic field. Suppose if we place in the non-uniform magnetic at different points, more clear, the force, magnitude and direction both may change or any one may change. Then we say the field is not uniform. That is how we classified what is magnetic field. You come to know. It is the region surrounding a magnet in which a north pole experiences a force, or entire region or a space in which a free north pole can experience a force. Uniform and non-uniform. Uniform, the north pole placed in that region, anywhere it may be, any point, it should experience the force of same magnitude and direction. It is different, then we call it as a non-uniform. Representing parallel to the paper, perpendicular to the paper, outward and perpendicular to the paper inward. So by observation itself it is clear it is a non-uniform and it is a uniform magnetic field. So with this let us come to the another important term is called as the magnetic field lines or magnetic lines of forces. The second magnetic lines of forces are magnetic field lines. In electrostatic we defined how the electrostatic field lines. They are the field lines drawn in an electric field along which a unit positive charge tends to move. Similarly, we take here equivalent to the unit positive charge, we consider a free north pole, imaginary one. Then we define on the basis magnetic lines of forces. Suppose this is the region of magnetic field. Now the path traced by a free north pole in a magnetic field is called magnetic field line. They are imaginary lines not visible. To understand the nature of magnetic field, whether uniform or not uniform, where the field is strong, where it is weak, all this information can be sought by drawing imaginary lines in the magnetic field as like electrostatic field lines. How we draw? That is the path traced by a free north pole placed in that region. So these are the imaginary lines drawn in the magnetic field along which a unit north pole or free north pole tends to move. That is how we define magnetic lines of forces. Now coming to the properties of magnetic lines of forces. Properties of field lines. So magnetic field lines, observed that they form closed loops. They screen through magnetic substance like iron, but cannot through brass, paper, mica, etc. When they screen through iron, they are forming a closed loop inside the magnet. North, south to north. Field lines run outside the magnet. They run from north to south. How? Let us take the example of a bar magnet. Now we have a bar magnet forming closed loop. They screen through the magnet or pass through the magnet. South to north inside, north to south outside. That they seems to be starting from north pole and terminating on its south pole, but not ends there. That continues inside, continued inside and form a closed loop. You are seeing that they are running from north to south outside the magnet. Outside the magnet, where they run from south to north inside the magnet. So that is any direction you can see that this is the way how the field lines exist. So they are forming the closed loop. This is how we see the field lines existing surrounding a bar magnet outside, as like if you take the positive charge and a negative charge, they originate from positive charge and terminate on the negative charge body. But it is not so in case of the magnetostatics. Electrostatic, basic two difference you remember. In case of electrostatic field lines and magnetostatic field lines, in electric field lines, they cannot form a closed loop. We cannot see the electrostatic field lines in the form of closed loop, but we see here they are in the form of closed loops. That's what the first difference. The second difference, in case of conductors, field lines cannot pass through. Field lines originate from positive charge, positively charged, and terminate on the negative charge, but they cannot enter into the conductor. They originate from the surface if it is positively charged, or if it is negatively charged, then terminate on the surface. They cannot pass through the conductor, electrostatic field lines. But magnetostatic field lines are passing through the magnetic material or magnet. Magnetic lines of forces pass through the magnet, but inside from south to north and outside from north to south form a closed loop. These two are basic differences we are seeing comparing to electrostatic field lines. These also cannot do magnetic lines of forces. Cannot intersect, how close it may be. You cannot imagine the two magnetic lines of forces intersecting is not possible. Why? If you place the north pole at this point, as per the definition of the field lines, we defined field lines are the imaginary lines drawn along which the north pole tends to move. Suppose when I place the north pole here, simultaneously it cannot travel in two different directions. That clears you as like electric field. These also cannot intersect or cannot meet each other. That's another. And similar to electric field lines, if you see along the axis of the bar magnet, the field lines tends to contract each other. They are tending to contract along the axis, but they dilate normal to the axis. Perpendicular to the bar magnet, if you see the field lines, they appear to be diverging. They are spreading apart. That is what I said, dilate. Along the axis, you see they are liking to be converging. They are liking to be shrinking. So that they are the simple properties we come to know about the magnetic field lines. They form closed loop. They can pass through the magnets. From inside they are from south to north, outside from north to south, and two magnetic lines of forces two magnetic lines of forces cannot intersect each other. Along the axis, magnetic field lines liking to shrink or contract each other, but they dilate perpendicular to the magnet. And if you observe the field lines, so we see that where the field lines are more closer in a given area, if I consider the T different layers, the area is same. The magnetic field at B1, B2 and B3, if I observed, number of field lines are more in the case of B1 compared to B2, compared to B3. I can write B1 is stronger than B2, stronger than B3. In a given area, more the field lines are passing or crossing, then we say the field is higher in strength. The strength of the field is large if the more number of field lines are crossing through a given area. So, however, given area is the same, but we are seeing more field lines passing through B1 compared to B2, therefore B1 is stronger than B2. Even you see here the number of field lines passing through B2 to B3, if you observe, area same, B3 is less compared to B2, therefore B2 is stronger than B3. So again, related to the magnetic field lines, I am coming to the Gauss law in magnetism. According to Gauss law, surface integral of the magnetic field over a closed surface is always equal to 0. surface integral of magnetic field over a closed surface is always equal to 0. It's the statement. By the statement you cannot be followed properly. Let us take a surface. This is a Gaussian surface or a closed surface. Gaussian surface means any surface which is closed. If I place a magnet, you know that in case of magnet, two poles cannot be separated. Monopole do not exist in magnetism. Therefore, when I place a magnet inside this surface, or I made a surface to enclose this magnet, there are two poles, one is north and south together. The field lines which are emanating out of this may pass out of the surface, but the same field lines will return from the other end. Or you can take from this also, they can enter here. That what it implies is, so any number of field lines which are emanating out of the surface which I considered, how much field lines are leaving the north pole from the surface, that many should come into the surface because of the presence of the south pole. Any number of dipoles you can place magnetic bar magnets, no difference at all, because every magnet contains two poles together. One is north and south. Magnetic field lines which are moving out of the north pole or from the surface, how much are emitted out of the surface, have to come into the surface. But this is not the situation in case of electrostatics. Electrostatic, if we have many number of positively charged bodies, all the field lines will go out. Or number of all the similar negative charges, all the field lines may come. But if we have a positive charge body, there is no condition that negative charge body should present to receive them. But here it is not so. When you place a magnet, how many field lines originate from the north pole? They start from the north pole and emanate out of the surface. All those field lines should come back to the south pole because it is the nature of the magnet. Therefore, as many field lines are emitted out, that may enter into the surface. What is the net flux or the field? Net flux, we consider that total number of, this answer is total number of field lines emitted from the surface, emitted out of this surface equal to total number of field lines entering the surface. If you imagine a surface in which you have placed a magnet, how many field lines are coming out of the surface, that many number of field lines should enter because of coexistence of the north and south pole with the magnet. The number of field lines, net number of field lines, moving out we take positive, coming in we take negative, entering take negative, exit we take positive. What is the total then? Becomes 0. Plus and plus minus the same value, net field is 0. That's what the statement says. Surface integral, that is taking the sum total of all field lines related to the surface over a closed surface is always 0. How many field lines plus emitted out that are coming into the minus, plus minus become 0. That is the explanation that need for this Gauss law. What is the direct consequence of this? One, it clearly suggests field lines, total number of field lines, how many are passing out of the surface are coming into the surface. This clearly suggests the consequence is monopole do not exist. Monopole do not exist in magnetism, number one, and magnetics, number two, magnetic field lines form closed loops. This is the second consequence. If they are not forming a closed loop, this field could have not been be 0. Third, most elementary magnet is a magnetic dipole or a current loop. Current loop or magnetic dipole. Any magnetic phenomena can be understood in terms of tiny magnetic dipole having north and south with magnetic moment M. As like in electrostatic, we have taken electric dipole. Understanding of the electric field of the dipole, we are taken the concept of dipole moment, electric dipole moment. Here we take magnetic dipole moment. It is a bar magnet. It may be a current loop. Current loop is considered as the tiny magnet having magnetic moment M. In terms of current loop or in terms of a short magnet, elementary magnet, as we discussed in the last class, in any matter, individual atom or a molecule behave like a magnetic dipole. That dipole or a current loop considered as the most elementary magnet. The simple arrangement of those can be used to explain any magnetic phenomena related in magnetism. What is charge, like here, what is magnet? The minimum is we have to think of a dipole or a current loop. We can arrange in certain orders and can understand any magnetic phenomena related with the subject given to you. That is the significance of Gauss law in magnetism. So you come to know what is meant by magnetic lines of forces. They are nothing but the imaginary lines drawn in the magnetic field along which they tend to move. Properties concerned, they form a closed loop. Distinct property, remember, they can screen through or pass through the iron like magnet or magnetic substance, but cannot pass through the substances like brass, non-magnetic called paper, glass, etc. And again, they cannot intersect each other. Gauss law in magnetism, the surface integral of the magnetic field over a closed surface is always 0. That's the numerical expression in the form of equation which required to solve some problems. Direct consequence of that is monopole do not exist. Magnetic field lines form closed loops. Most elementary magnet is the magnetic dipole or a current loop. Any magnetic phenomena related with magnetism can be understood by suitable arrangement of either magnetic dipoles or the current loops. So with this concept, let us come to understand some terms we are even and often use in magnetism. So coming to magnetic flux. Representing this. However, we come to know magnetic field line concept. Suppose if we have a surface We consider a surface of area A, area vector perpendicular to the surface. Usually we take, if this is the surface, area vector, magnitude is this area of the surface, direction is perpendicular to the surface. So magnetic flux, let us think the magnetic field lines are making some angle with respect to the area vector. Consider the uniform magnetic field. So the magnetic field lines are making some angle with respect to the area vector A, and if it is B, magnetic field lines making angle theta. And this is the surface area we have taken. Magnetic flux is nothing but the total magnetic lines of forces passing through a surface held normal to the lines of forces. Therefore, I have to consider the component of this, how much magnetic field normal to the surface will cross. When I take a component of B along A, you know well it is becoming B cos theta, adjacent side by hypotenuse. How many lines of forces? Each line of force can have this magnitude. And the area, larger the area, flux increases. Larger the strength increases. Therefore, we define magnetic flux is equal to product of A into B cos theta. Increasing in the given area, number of field lines, more the field lines, more the flux become. Total magnetic field lines crossing through that. And again, if you increase the area for the given number, then also more and more area covers in the uniform field, the more field lines appear, and that also increases the flux. So this is the expression general. We can represent in the vector form as B dot A, dot product of two vectors. Therefore, we say it is a scalar quantity, magnetic flux is. And this magnetic flux is maximum. It becomes maximum BA when theta is 0. That means field lines are perpendicular to the surface or along the area vector. If that form, then field lines and area vector are together, angle between them becomes 0. Then we see that the flux is maximum. Surface is perpendicular to the magnetic field lines. Magnetic field lines are in this direction. You are seeing both are parallel. Which are not surface? Area vector and magnetic field lines are parallel. But the surface what we held is normal. Surface is normal to the field lines, then maximum flux we see through that. That flux equal to BA. Similarly, flux becomes 0 when theta becomes 90 degree. That area vector and B, angle between, that what I shown here, angle between A and B must become 90 degree. So as like now you see, this is the area vector. This is the magnetic field which is coming out. Maximum flux we are seeing there. But as we turn the surface slowly, imagine the surface slowly, when the surface become normal, when the surface become parallel to the field lines. Now you see field lines, surface is parallel. Area vector become normal to the field lines. Theta is 90 degree. When theta become 90, no flux. That means no lines of force pass through the surface. That is, surface is becoming like this, and this is the field line, and the area vector become perpendicular, then angle become 90 degree. When it is parallel to the surface, no lines can pass through the surface. Thereby the flux becomes 0. And again, flux, if you consider for a body, The flux entering the surface we consider positive. Flux is positive. If it is, entering the surface is negative. Entering the surface is negative. When it is moving out, we take it as a positive. Emitting out of the surface, positive. Entering into the surface is negative. That is how in Gauss magnetism law, I told that net magnetic field or the flux becomes zero. How many field lines exit from the surface, that much should enter in case of a magnetic dipole. That is why integral of the B dot ds become 0. Now I hope you are followed here. B dot ds is nothing but this. So thus flux may be maximum when the area is perpendicular to the field lines. Flux is 0 when area is parallel to the surface or A and B are mutually perpendicular to each other. If the entering the flux, the reason is here itself. So magnetic field in this direction, if the area become opposite, so normal but area vector is in the opposite direction, mentioning it is B. Angle is 180 degree and flux of B is minus BA. Both are in the same direction plus BA. That in this case happens as here. 0 when angle between them is 90 degree. Coming to its unit, the SI unit used to measure this is Weber, representing as W. It is a scalar, unit is Weber, and dimensionally, if you want, dimensionally flux of B is, if you consider it is BA. How we can BA in one relation you come to know, the force experiencing by a charge kept in a magnetic field is BQV maximum, or B can be written as F upon QV. If you understood already, did chapters you can know, otherwise we will come in that chapter. So substituting here FA by QV. F is M L T power minus 2 L square is area, divided by charge is current into time, velocity is L by T. So see what happens, T cancels, L cancels. What remained is M L power 2 T power minus 2 A power minus 1 is the dimension of flux. Not necessary to remember. If you know the simple, B is force is equal to BQV. B is F upon QV substituted here. F is ML T power minus 2, A is L square, Q is AT, V is L by T. M L square T power minus 2, A power minus 1 is the dimensional formula for flux. That's what flux means. Total number of magnetic field lines crossing normal to a surface held in the magnetic field is defined as a magnetic flux. Expression for flux you come to know AB cos theta or B dot A. It is a scalar, have unit Weber, have dimension, and maximum when it is surface is perpendicular to the field lines. 0 when the surface is parallel or angle between A and B become 90 degree. Flux entering the surface is negative, flux leaving the surface is positive. With this knowledge, let us come to the next is about the magnetic flux density or magnetic field, magnetic induction. The different names they use, but the concept is same. In many numerical problems, they use these words. They may use magnetic flux density. Or magnetic induction, or many times they use a magnetic field, but the notation is B. How we defined is, Already we defined the flux as BA, maximum flux. Magnetic magnitude, if you define flux per unit area. Suppose if I had a surface, these are the field lines that is passing through that area vector and magnetic field. So this number of field lines passing through the given surface held normal to the surface per unit area. Per unit area is defined as magnetic flux density, or may be defined as magnetic induction or magnetic field. Magnetic flux per unit area is defined as magnetic induction or magnetic density. It is a vector. It is a vector. It is the direction of the field is the direction of the B. Or unit north pole placed, you know, it is equivalent to electric field. If you imagine equivalent to electric field, how you come to know the electric field? It is the direction along which positive charge move. Similarly, this is a vector. The direction of B is along the direction of north pole move in the field. In what direction the north pole moves in the field? Nothing but the magnetic field lines. With the arrows we represent. Direction of the field is nothing but represented by this. So the B magnitude and is flux by area, and B is this. Suppose if you want the SI unit is Weber per meter square, or it may call as Tesla, representing notation as T. Either T or Weber per meter square is used. Dimensionally want B. Already know flux, we written M L power 2 T power minus 2 A power minus 1 is the flux dimension divided by L square area. Therefore, dimension of B become M L power 2 T power minus L power 0, L power 0, T power minus 2, A power minus 1. L power 2 get cancelled here. This is the dimension, and remember here one, in CGS system we are using another unit called Gauss. 1 Gauss is equal to 10 power minus 4 Tesla. Sometimes the questions in entrance, particularly in entrance, they used to represent the magnetic field in terms of Gauss. They use the notation as G. To convert into SI system from CGS system, 1 Gauss is equal to 10 power minus 4 Tesla, remember it. So this is about what magnetic flux density means. Magnetic flux density is not, or magnetic field or induction is defined as the ratio of magnetic flux per unit area, or the total number of magnetic lines of forces passing normal to the surface per unit area is defined as magnetic flux density, and it is a vector. Direction of the field is nothing but the direction along which a unit north pole placed in the magnetic field tends to move. SI unit is Weber per meter square. Tesla is alternately used. 1 Gauss equal to 10 power minus 4 Tesla equivalent to dimensionally is this. Coming to next, what is about the magnetic intensity mean? Magnetic intensity. It is also called intensity of magnetizing field. Representation is H. is a vector. Magnetizing field. So it is only, it induces, this magnetizing field induces magnetism in magnetic materials. For example, if I take, there is a magnetic substance. Imagine this is a magnetic substance. I told magnetic substances are intrinsically having the magnetic dipoles in random order, so that the net magnetic field due to individual dipoles of the matter is cancelled and no net magnetic field is observed outside. It is already a magnetic substance. If I place this in the magnetic field, this field which I use to magnetize it, I am calling it as a magnetizing field or magnetic intensity. So every field has to move in the medium, either air or vacuum, or it may be the material. Now the conducting ability of the medium, that we define here as magnetic absolute permittivity. Absolute permeability. Of vacuum or air, we write it as mu naught. Absolute permeability of vacuum is mu naught, whose value is considered to be 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 Henry per meter. The standard value, the conducting, to what extent the vacuum or air can carry the magnetic energy, magnetic field lines. We defined it as a absolute permeability of the vacuum. Similarly, absolute permeability of a medium we defined as mu. This we relate to both, therefore I taken like that. I hope you have used in electrostatic. Absolute permittivity of a vacuum or air or free space is called epsilon naught, 8.85 into 10 power minus 12 Faraday per meter, or absolute permittivity of medium as epsilon, and defined epsilon by epsilon naught as epsilon or comparison of medium ability with respect to the vacuum. Similarly, here we define, I come to later for this, I define here what is H. H can be defined as B naught by mu naught. B naught is the flux density what we observe in air or vacuum. B naught is the magnetic, in absence of this there is air or vacuum or a free space. The field what we see is B naught. B naught out of the given, that is ability of conduction of the medium, B naught by mu naught, or I can write B naught is equal to H into mu naught. How much conducted and available is obtaining from, this is the measure of strength of the magnetic field at any point, any region. If I am measuring here what is the strength of the magnetic field in air or vacuum, in absence of this, that B naught is. Supplied is H. This is only have capacity available actually available due to this conduction ability of the vacuum. That gives you the conducting ability, make you to understand this. What H is? B naught is only measurable, but actually which can induce the magnetism in this magnetic substance and make the dipoles to align is by the H. Because of this, additional field lines may appear in this, and because of the streamlining of that, we say substance is magnetized. The individual intrinsic dipoles now they are getting polarizing. That depends on the value of H. More and more value of H, more and more polarization, more and more field starts to emit from the surface. Along with the applied new field, what we appear here after some induction, we call it as a B. B naught in absence of that, B in presence of this. However, B naught H is defined as B naught by mu naught, magnetic flux density to the ratio of magnetic flux density to the permeability of the vacuum is defined as H, and its SI unit is ampere per meter. We define, I taken it as ampere per meter is the unit of H, magnetizing field. I hope you are followed. This induces magnetism in any material. We coming to that later. Now I am coming to this absolute permeability. We defined of vacuum is conducting ability of air or vacuum is considered as mu naught, defined as absolute permeability, and its value is 4 pi into 10 power minus 7 Henry per meter. For any medium, like when it is passing through this medium, it may be anything, iron, cobalt, nickel, steel, or any substance. What we see is H, so that how much it conducts is mu, measured with the same unit Henry per meter. Measured with same unit, no difference at all. Again, we define relative permeability. Relative permeability. Mu R is a ratio of mu to mu naught. It is the conducting ability of medium to that of vacuum. To what extent the magnetic flight lines can be passed through a given medium, to that of vacuum the ratio is considered as mu R, defined as relative permeability, as like we have taken in case of electrostatic, epsilon R is equal to epsilon by epsilon naught. It is nothing but mu. I can write here mu is equal to B by H. This B, the net flux we are seeing through the surface or medium, B by H. If I take mu by mu naught, I can define as B by B naught also. If you take the ratio, mu is B by H and mu naught is B naught by H, because I can write here mu naught is equal to B naught by H. H cancels. B by B naught. It is unitless. Unitless. Relative permeability is unitless. But remember, it is always positive, no negative. No negative, it may become 0 or maybe any higher values. 0. So any higher values. Why I am writing? Because for pure diamagnetic materials, sometimes mu R may become 0. Perfect diamagnetism, when the substance acquires, it becomes 0. Mu R is maybe 0 or mu R may be greater than 0, less than 1, a fraction for paramagnetic material. Now 0 equal to or almost equal to 1 for diamagnetic. Perfect diamagnetism is 0. Mu R is greater than 0. 1 plus, it may be less than 2 or around 2. It is a paramagnetic. Mu R is very much greater than 1, or I can write here just greater than 1. It is a ferromagnetic. Diamagnetic between 0 to 1. Fraction it is, fraction. But it is greater than 1, but very small value in case of paramagnetic. It become very high value, thousands together, 10 power 2 to 10 power 6. It can take value in case of ferromagnetic substance. I think you are understood what is meant by magnetic intensity and magnetic permeability. We define permeability 3 types. Permeability of vacuum, permeability of medium, And relative permeability is a comparison of permeability of the medium to that of vacuum. Unitless quantity, it may take you studied about the dia-para and ferromagnetic substances. This relative permeability is a fraction for diamagnetic, or it may become 0 or greater than 1 for very near, greater than 1 but very minimal value for para, very high value for ferromagnetic substances. Now coming to the next is about magnetic intensity. Intensity of magnetization. I. So as we have placed the magnetic substance, magnetic material in the magnetizing field H, already before that there is B naught without this, randomly oriented in a disordered order the dipoles present, but this field magnetizing the substance means it polarizing the dipoles inside so that all the molecules can come in one order, and there is a intrinsic magnetic moment arises. It is a magnetic dipole moment because of this magnetized impressions. V is the volume of the material, volume of substance we have taken. Then we define the respect of that I, intensity of magnetization is equal to magnetic moment per unit volume. This magnetic moment generated due to the polarization of the dipoles of the magnetic substance, and one end becoming north and other end becoming south, its a pole strength is arising, and if it is having length 2L and area of cross section is A, we can write this even as M into 2L. Because of polarization due to this magnetizing field, the north and south poles getting some magnetic strength, magnetism, and pole strength and a magnetic length is 2L. M into 2L is the magnetic moment, 2L into area is the volume, length into area of cross section. If you simplify, I can write this as EM by A. You can define either way the intensity of magnetization. That just sometimes magnetization they use. Magnetic moment acquired per unit volume of the material, or pole strength acquired per unit area of cross section of the magnetic substance, is defined as intensity of magnetization. It has a direction equal to that of the applied field in case of depending on the material. For diamagnetic it may be opposite. For para and ferromagnetic substance it is in the same direction. So this is a vector, and that is what I told, depending on the material. In para and ferromagnetic substance, direction of H or B is same as that of this, and SI unit is ampere per meter. If you want the dimension of I, ampere meter, A in per L power minus 1. For H also same, ampere per meter. So B naught was present before this substance was placed in that region. When I placed this, due to magnetization, new magnetic intensity appear here because of this. The magnetic field is the sum net magnetic field across the surface I am now showing is the sum of the two. One your applied field to magnetize this is B naught plus I is the magnetic intensity acquired, that strength of magnetism acquired by this material, magnetic moment per volume or pole strength per area, into conduction ability is mu naught. I mu naught gives you that value. This is one equation. So we are using here B is equal to B naught is, I can write H into mu naught plus I into mu naught. One equation I can write here, B is equal to mu naught into H plus I. One of the equations we use in entrance relation when B, H and I. It is magnetizing field, it is induced magnetism in the substance, conducting ability of vacuum gives you the magnetic flux density in the region of the magnetic substance placed. Or if I rewritten as mu BH, already you come mu into H, which can be written mu naught mu r into H. Mu is equal to mu naught mu r, which is equal to mu naught H plus mu naught I. That you have mu naught H plus mu naught I. Throughout you divide it by mu naught H. Mu naught H. If I divide by mu naught H, and here also mu naught H, here also mu naught H, we get an equation that is mu r is equal to, here it become 1 plus I by H. Now this I by H is a constant for the given material at particular temperature, and we define new term which I am explaining now. After this, another equation we got. This Xi is nothing but called as a magnetic susceptibility. Of the substance. The two relations I showed you here, B equal to mu naught into H plus I, relative permeability equal to 1 plus susceptibility of a material. Susceptibility means what we discuss, but remember these two. We defined H, we defined mu naught mu as good as mu r, and also intensity of magnetic moment per unit volume or pole strength per unit area, and brought the relation B equal to mu naught H plus I or mu r equal to 1 plus susceptibility. Let us come to this concept of and I versus H if I show here before coming to this magnetism. If I take the graph of intensity of magnetization versus magnetizing field, I by H, I versus H, it is almost seems to be constant, varies and remains almost a constant in case of ferromagnetic material. Most linear but very less in case of paramagnetic. That H direction is the direction of I in both of cases, but in case of diamagnetic it is negative. In diamagnetic, the substance polarize, dipoles polarize opposite to that of the applied to some extent. So however, this graph versus I of H I shown you. Coming to the concept of this magnetic susceptibility is defined as I by H, because we come to know in all the cases I is proportional to H. The constant of proportionality is brought. This susceptibility does not depend on I and H. It is independent of H, but this gives you the clue to what extent a substance can be magnetized per applied field. Meaning is, suppose this is an applied field H. Now I kept one as a iron, another may be the cobalt, and another may be the steel. H is same. I of iron or I of the cobalt and I of the steel are not same, they are different. This idea which is more magnetic for the given field which acquires higher magnetization is the more magnetic. That our effort is less. We are getting strong magnetism means we say that substance is more magnetic. That comparison can be had from this quantity called magnetic susceptibility. I is having unitless quantity because you know I and H both are having ampere per meter cancels. This susceptibility, I told it is independent of H because I proportional to H we brought a constant, but depends on temperature. How this varies with the temperature, with the ferromagnetic, paramagnetic and diamagnetic, they are different. So in case of ferromagnetic I take the first as a ferromagnetic. I will discuss again coming to the concept of the ferro and dia. Just for convenience I am saying, almost with respect to that remaining constant earlier and slowly goes on decreases for temperature critical called T greater than T minus Tc. T greater than Tc. This happening like that. So suppose if you come to paramagnetic, the variation of the susceptibility with the temperature. It does not depend on I and H, but depends on temperature. As temperature increases, the nature goes on changes. So paramagnetic, almost the curve is like this. That susceptibility is inversely proportional to temperature. If you want here, it is susceptibility is inversely proportional to T minus Tc for T greater than Tc. For diamagnetic, it is the temperature versus susceptibility, almost constant but negative. Xi is negative because I is opposite side, minus I. Minus I by H gives you this susceptibility for diamagnetic is minus I by H. This appears to be almost constant for the diamagnetic, does not depend on temperature, but depends on temperature. In case of ferro and paramagnetic, these are the important for NEET or JEE. They may give the graph, which one may be the right here, they may be asking you. So this is about the what we have taken susceptibility, intensity of magnetization and related concept with the two important relations. Remember, for board exams, these graphs along with these two relations, you have to be B equal to mu naught into H plus I. So these are the things I discuss now, starting from what is magnetic field lines properties, very important for board also. And even for entrance, the concept based questions are appearing in this magnetic field lines. Gauss law, its significance that it monopole do not exist. Magnetic field lines are closed loop, forming the closed loops. Magnetic dipole or current loop are the most elementary magnet, and with the help of them arranging in suitable way, we can understand any magnetic phenomena. Magnetic flux density, magnetic intensity, magnetic permeability, intensity of magnetization and susceptibility. Conceptually, you must be very clear what they say, what they reflect in magnetism. Then only you can understand the entire magnetic concept. And susceptibility is independent of I and H, is a constant brought here. How the I varies with the H, we showed here. And susceptibility depends on temperature in case of ferromagnetic, paramagnetic and diamagnetic. Once the substance magnetized, a given relation between relative permeability and susceptibility, magnetic flux, magnetizing field, intensity of magnetization relation. And also remember that relations about the flux. Flux is BA cos theta is another important relation, or B is equal to flux by area. This you keep in mind. When you go to the numericals, we can discuss those things once again. Thank you. We'll stop here. We'll see about the magnetic forces with poles and also bar magnets in the next video. Thank you.